Hello everyone, today we continue to look at the Red Hat Certified Engineer exam question. Next, let's look at question 7. Everyone should pay attention. What? Question 7 asks us to create and use a role, not just directly use a role. In other words, although in question 6 we indeed installed a role, right? In question 6 we installed an HA proxy and a PSP info. However, these two roles will be used in question 8. Question 7 asks us to create something ourselves. Everyone should be careful not to get it wrong. Question 7 is not asking us to use the roles from question 6, but to create and then use our own. Question 8 is where we use the roles from question 6. There is a connection between them. However, it's not just about the question numbers being consecutive to be considered connected. Between question 6 and question 8, question 7 is skipped. Be aware of this connection and make sure not to get it wrong. Next, let's take a look at the question for number 7. The content of this question is relatively longer. Starting from question 7, in some of the following questions, the difficulty gradually increases, and question 7 is like this. Its requirement is for us to go under the rows directory, to create a character named Amachi. Previously, the characters, we installed them directly with a one-click command. Right, like the character in our 6th question. We used a one-click command to install, but this character requires us to create it ourselves and use this character to perform some configurations. This is a basic requirement of our task. This requirement is to first create a role that complies with the Ansible Galaxy standards. Secondly, to implement the full lifecycle management of our AMBA7 service, from installation to configuration to startup to allowing it through the firewall, etc. And finally, we use templates to generate our web content, which is the main objective of our 7th task. As for the specific requirements, first we analyze the task requirements one by one, breaking them down into several points. After generating the role, it requires us to use this role to install the HTTP software package and set it to start automatically when the system boots up. We start together. The second point is that the firewall is already activated. We need to allow the web service rules and allow external services through the firewall. This is the second point. The third point is the template. Here, we need to use this template to generate our web page, which is the default homepage of Apache. This is our third specific requirement, which is below is welcome to hostname or IP address. The hostname here is a variable for our hostname or a variable for the domain name. To be precise, it can also be called the fully qualified domain name of the managed node. The IP address is the IP address of our managed node. These are two pieces of information. These are two variables that we will configure later. Please pay attention. Finally, it's not about displaying this, but rather, here is the hostname, and here is the IP. Don't get this wrong. Don't go and write whole name and IP address. That would be incorrect. These are two variables, and the next step, there's one more step. What are we asked to create? We are asked to create our playbook. The requirement for the playbook is to place it under our Ansible directory. Using this playbook, we create our role and use it. Finally, it is applied to our web servers group. Who is in this group? At that time, we were in this group and added a subgroup. At that time, a subgroup was added to this group. Here, the main task is to create within these two subgroups. Create service. Once the service is created, we should be able to access it directly. This to manage nodes. This is related to question 7 and 8. Question 6 involves installing the role needed for question 8. As for question 7, it serves as a preparation for the use in question 8. Because the role we just installed, what role did we install? It is Hey Proxy and PHE4 for complex load balancing. Right, this is our web backend. Generally some backend languages. So this load balancing, what is it actually for? It's for the two hosts within this web server group. Who are the hosts in our group? As you can see, in our first question, the file is Note 2, not Note 3 and Note 4. After we installed Apache on these two. In the 8th question, these two will be treated as a whole, and we will perform load balancing using the role installed in the 6th question. This is the overall configuration of our setup, meaning the 6th and 8th questions are related, as are the 7th and 8th questions. Many of the questions are interconnected, so it's crucial to ensure each question is completely correct before moving on. This prevents errors in one question from affecting subsequent ones. If you encounter this situation during an exam, it could waste a lot of time, especially if you start to panic. It might affect your ability to answer the following questions. Therefore, it's advisable to complete one question before moving on to the next. This is a suggestion for everyone. Alright, next, let's specifically tackle the 7th question. Or if there are many steps, just take your time and remember them gradually. So first, the question requires us to create and use a role. Actually, the requirements below are all about using the role, not creating it. This role needs to be created by us. It only specifies where to create it, which is in this directory. The rest is up to us to handle. So first, let's go to our web interface, or rather, our terminal. After arriving at the terminal, what do we do next? First, we create this role of ours. Let's create the role first. Here we need to use our unstable. Dash. Galaxy, followed by rule n. It initialization, followed by the path we initialized. Just now, the path now. Add it behind. Actually, this path is right here. This is our path. After setting it up, we can check on iOS. In the directory, you can see there's an additional Apache, right? This balance and our PHP info are from the previous task, right? The role from the previous task, and this one we created ourselves. Here, it's already set up. But there's nothing inside. It's just an empty role. It doesn't contain any information. Here, we need to, add some information inside, and then we can use this role properly. Next, let's first take a look at the directory structure inside the role. Here, what we commonly use is about the most commonly used, first of all, is the task, which is essential. Tasks are our assignments, right? Secondly, there's the template, which we need to use in this task because the task requires us to use a template. This template allows us to distribute a web page, specifically the home page, to all our managed nodes. It's the welcome to hostname to IP address one. Everyone should pay attention to this. As for the others, for example, the file is used for what? It's used to copy some files. Vars refers to our variables, etc. Everyone can refer to this here. In this task, we are using task and template, alright? So next, why do we mention these two? It's because here, actually, it is. Our role is essentially to break down a relatively complete and large YML file into smaller separate files. For example, those responsible for tasks. The template is responsible for storing templates. 9. Files here are responsible for storing files. Variables are stored in the vars section. So the division of labor is very clear, and they are completely separated. Therefore, what we need to do next is to write tasks in the task section, write templates in the template section, and finally, in our current answer directory, write an external file to call this. Combine the task and template calls together, and then execute one. And finally execute using our role. This is a characteristic of roles. It's not just a single file, but a collaboration of multiple files and directories. The first advantage of this is that we can allow what? Each directory has its own responsibility, so things won't get messy. Otherwise, if you encounter a complex project and need to write it in a single script, you might find that after a while it becomes hundreds of lines long. 3. It's getting more and more chaotic. Everything behind is just a mess and I can't find anything. In this situation, it's actually quite inconvenient, right? So after we divide it into different roles, you see, you are responsible for one part. And if there's a problem in this part that I handle, I only need to modify this part. I don't need to worry about the situation of other modules. This is actually one of our advantages. The benefit of roles, or the advantage of roles. Next, let's officially take a look at the specific usage of roles. First, we create the roles, and then we use Galaxy List to check the current status of our roles. There are 3 roles, 1 from the last lesson and 2 from this lesson. We just need to look at the one above. You can ignore the default one below. Let me show you. These are the 2 from the last lesson, right? And this is the 1 from this lesson. Alright, if there are no issues, we can start editing. As we mentioned earlier, there are 2 parts here. First, who do we edit? We edit our task. Here, just add main.iml after the Apache task. Once inside, by default, you see it says something like, this is a task file for the Avashik role. Well, since we don't need it, just delete it. Starting from here, we will officially begin writing. First, the name. Here, what tasks do we need to include? Pay attention here, we don't need to specify things like hosts or users anymore. We can directly start writing tasks. Our division of labor is very clear. Specifying hosts is for other files. This file is solely for writing tasks, so we can start directly with the name. What does this mean? It means the task is already written. Here, it's like we're writing content within the task. Yes, that's how it is. First, the requirement for this task is to install the service, start it, and allow it through the firewall. Right? That's the requirement. So let's take it step by step. What if the service isn't installed? The first step is to install the service, followed by name, and whatever comes next. Of course, you can define this name as you like. Can be anything, as long as you can distinguish it yourself. Then next, we add our YAM module. As for the YAM module, let me see. With the YAM module here, we start installing a specific service, HGBD. Note that it has a D. Our HB protocol, we are dealing with a protocol, but the name of our service is HTTPD, so we add this DD at the end. To install it, the state should be what? Latest, or should I say, present. Either is fine. You can install anything you like. There's no specific requirement for a particular version, right? So you can install whatever you want. Just install whatever you like. So here you can use latest or present. Both are fine, as long as the installation operation is done. Of course, in our sample here, there's actually only one, just one. Next, let's take a look. Here, HBD is okay, and latest is no problem. This is the first step of installation. This is also the first task. After completing the first task, if you want to start the second task, it begins from here. Hey, make sure to lock it. Starting from here, after the colon following name, it's the second task. After installing the second task, how should it be started, right? You need to start up. Let's start our service. Then here, we just have one. As for the name, you can call it whatever you like. To start the service, just use start, right? Start. HTTPD, alright, okay, next, the next. Ansible, point. Who is it? Well, it's our system module. The main function of the system module is to start services. This is a module, right? Either it's responsible for installation, right? After installation, it is used to start services. To start a service, first you need to write what? First, write the name of the service, and second, write the status. Because this doesn't just mean starting, like the CC team. It can include operations like starting, restarting, shutting down, etc. So, we need to specify what we want it to do. When you write restart, it actually means the same thing, but it's better to use start here. Starting is better. Although restarting can achieve the same effect, if it hasn't started in the first place, there's no need to restart. Okay, start, and then add what? Auto start on boot. Make sure to include it. You absolutely must include this. Otherwise, this task is ruined. If you don't include it, the whole task is basically wasted. Because if you don't start it, you won't be able to meet any of the requirements below. So you must write this part here, you must write it. All services start from this initial stage to our intermediate stage. As long as you have installed the software and services, regardless of what service it is, whether it's done in the system or not, you need to enable it, right? Inside, we just use enable. Yes, in the command line, right? We add enable, followed by our service name. In other words, you have to execute this command. Make sure it starts automatically. Of course, some services are set to start automatically by default, but it's safer to do it for all services. This way, you won't miss any. Just in case, you might accidentally have some services that don't need to start automatically, but you might forget and miss one. If something goes wrong, you won't get any points for this question, so pay attention here. Make sure to be careful. Now, let's take a look at the next part. The next step. Since we've already started the service here, what's left? It's about how we can access the service. So, how do we access it? Because we have a problem here. That is, the firewall is turned on. The title says that the firewall is turned on, since the firewall is already enabled. It's not that the direction is open, to be precise. The firewall is already enabled and running. We need to let it run. This is mainly about this. It's part of the requirements of the task, not something that already exists. The task requires us to enable the firewall and run it, but there's no need to install the firewall. The firewall doesn't need to be installed as it's already there. All application systems have a firewall. It's impossible not to have one. So, regarding the firewall, it's already there, but we need to start it. After starting it, our services might not be accessible because the firewall will intercept, right? It intercepts most of the service ports. So here, after starting it, we need to take another step, which is to allow the port of the HTTPE we just installed. Once it's allowed, we can access it like this. This is our next step. Now, let's look at the third step, which is we reach this point. Okay, the third step. Start the firework firewall. To start the firewall, first, which service do we use? It's the same as the service we just used, exactly the same as above. It's our system. Name HTTPD not segmented. What should it be? It should be firework. And then the next step, state. Here it's the same. Start. Add another step. Enable the firewall. This is also a service. The firewall is a service too, so it needs to be started once. Pay attention. You must be careful. What's the next step? It's to allow the ports. If you don't allow them, we can't access them, right? So how do we allow them? Well, to allow ports, for example, we just... Basically, it's about adding the port number for Hamachi, right? Adding a port. How do we add it? Well, here we use a feature of our firewall. Module, like file word. After entering the firewall module, pay attention. First, we need to specify which service we want to allow. Who is it? There's no D because our D, to be precise, is actually it's actually the name of our software package or the service software, which is the name of the program. However, SI, what needs to be allowed through our firewall, is generally, well, mainly some protocols. The HB protocol is actually one of them. And there's no such thing as HDPD. HPD refers to specific business services. So here we need to write it as HDDP. Can't include D, huh? And here we use one. Take effect immediately. Augment state. State. If it's a good state, enable it. Add another one. We haven't finished here, everyone. Please note that we haven't finished yet. We've written 4 tasks, right? But it's actually not finished. It's actually not finished. Here. Adding the % and immediate commands mainly serves to make our rules persistent and take effect immediately. And after it takes effect, don't exit yet. Don't exit just yet. We're still missing one step. Although what we've written here, right? 4 or 5 seem to have no issues, right? It includes our installation, starting the firewall, and then allowing it. What are we still missing? In the task, there's a requirement that asks us to use a template to make all our pages uniform. Of course, it's not mainly about uniformity, but rather a uniform format, so that all our web pages have a consistent format, though the content will definitely be different because we're using variables. How do we do this in such a case? Okay. Do you still remember the template here? Well, in the template, we can store this template file. So here we can directly specify the name of a template file. Alright, there we don't need to write name in the template. If you write name, it means it's a task. Only tasks have names, templates do not have names. It's not that they don't have names, it's just that templates don't require a name and can be used directly. As for the template, this template is essentially used to copy the file within the template to different hosts. So the usage here is actually like a copy operation, where src is the source address. The source address, as required in our task, is index.html.er. Please pay attention to this. Here, you don't need to add a path. Why? Because we are using a template. Do you understand what this means, right? With the template, we just need to place the file in the template directory, and we can call it directly. This is the advantage of using roles. You don't need to write the absolute path. No need to write such a long absolute path. And then the rest is our target address. Okay, we write the target address, or target path, from our local side. The file, or template, from the control ends template directory is copied to our remote stage host. Of course, it's not just the stage, because for this task, we have just two. Once we finish writing here, we save it. Okay, after saving. It cannot be executed. It cannot be executed. We are still missing something. First, what are we missing? First, we are missing our template file. The template file is in the Apache template directory, and we need to edit an index.html.j2. Make sure the name is consistent. Once inside first, we just need to directly write what is required in our task. Welcome to. Following that are variables. There are two variables. The first one is our main base name variable. The main base name variable is no name. The second variable is our IP. The IP is, because when we designed the app, it was Ansible A default. Let IPv4 dot address. Okay, this is our content. I'm up. Note, there are spaces before and after the parentheses. This way it can recognize this variable, all right? And then this is our table file. Is it finished? Not yet. What's still missing? The content in our task file just now is fine, right? Our 4 tasks, its own 4 tasks, plus this template are all okay, already fully prepared, but when we normally execute a script, right, we follow the previous method. Haven't we already done many exercises before, right? Not counting the first 2 exercises, the first 2 were installation exercises, but the ones before that, what common feature do they all have? Everyone can think back. All scripts must specify which host. That's for sure. If you don't specify the host, who will execute your script? You wouldn't know, right? So, the host must be specified. But we can't specify it in our main file because we are tasks. We are just tasks. So, who should handle this global configuration? We will handle it ourselves by directly editing a file named amachi.yml under the answer directory. After entering, what do we do? First, the usual routine. At the start, we begin with a name. Web servers rule. The second step is to specify the host, group, and we need the web service group, all right? The third step, under normal circumstances, we would proceed to tasks, right? But do we need to now? No, we don't, because we've already written the task. So in this situation, what do we do? Well, we specify who the role we are calling is through rules. And who is it? It's the Apache role we just created ourselves. We just need to call this role. After calling it once, it will automatically check the contents within the roles directory. First, it will detect that there is a file in our tasks, right? Then it will also detect that there is a file in our templates directory, and it will take these 2 files, execute them together, and that's it. This is one of the advantages of our role. Through this, you see, the command we execute is just this long, and that's it. As for the content of the tasks, we can directly specify and write it in the tasks directory. Which part do you need to change? If there's an issue with your task, you just modify the task. If there's a problem with your template, then you go to the templates mode to change the template. If other components have issues, you can just make separate modifications accordingly. In this way, we can ensure our overall structure. The overall structure doesn't change much. We only need to modify the details and nuances. This way, the changes we make will be smaller, and relatively speaking, it will be more convenient and clearer. We can say that the content we modify. This is one of the situation with the rows role. And next, let's save it now. We can save it now. Of course, during execution, there might be many errors, but you can just check after the error occurs. It's not a big deal. Also, although we have divided it into 3 files, right? 3 files are actually quite few. If you use some other modules, there might be more. If you encounter errors during execution with these 3 files, it will generally tell you which specific file has the error. So you don't need to worry too much about how to find the error among so many files. It will inform you. Let's save it here first. Let's save it first. Currently our file is in here, right? Our file is here, and then under the rules directory, we have our RHCE character. So when we execute this script, it will call the RHCE character from the repository to execute our content. Let's take a look at the specific operation here. First, let's execute it here. Ansible Navigator run executes Apache YML-M. Let's check the standard output to see the results. Okay, there are no errors. Hey, good news. No errors mean your format is completely correct. Next, let's see. It's finished. Now let's look at this. Your content, well, now that it's been modified, how do you verify it afterward? Usually when you reach this point, you can proceed to the next step. However, there are always some unexpected situations, like if you accidentally wrote a parameter incorrectly, it might not be detected. It can only check your syntax, meaning during our operation, it can only check your syntax. So in the end, to ensure correctness, it's best to take a look. Spend 30 seconds to type a command and just take a look. First, we need to clarify that our web service includes 2 hosts, Node 3 and Node 4. For this task, we only need to modify these 2 hosts. You can see it here, right? Change Node 3, Node 4. Okay, so how do we check the 2 hosts here? Well, of course, you can use SEH to transfer it up, or you can directly open the virtual machine to check, but there's no need for that. There's no need because we've already set up Ansible, right? Since we've done that, whether it's executing commands, checking, inspecting, or troubleshooting, we do it all through Ansible. This one virtual machine is enough. This one control terminal is sufficient, so there's no need to connect to other hosts. It's unnecessary. It's a waste of time, so how do we verify this here? In fact, you don't even need Ansible's remote commands for this. Honestly, why is that? Because what we just set up isn't an ordinary service, nor is it a regular business, and it's not just about changing a file. What we just set up is a web service, right? We set up a website, so how do we access the website? Just access it, right? http://node3. No, 4 completed. Okay, no problem, good. This is the 7th question. As long as you can access welcome to Node 3, Node 4 and their respective IPs, that's fine. It must match here. Don't say, hey, you like Node 3, but Node 2 or Node 1 appears. What does that indicate? It indicates there's an issue here, but this situation generally doesn't occur. If you're accessing Node 3, it must either give an error or definitely be Node 3. Why? Because this variable causes it so that when you access Node 3, it shows Node 3's hostname and IP. If you access Node 1, then Node 1 will appear if it's set up, showing Node 1's domain name and IP. Of course, there are only 3 and 4 here, because for 125, it's on 5 machines. For these 3 machines, we actually haven't done any operations. In this question, we only operated on 3 and 4. Here, you must ensure that 3 and 4 are correct before moving on to the 8th question. The 7th and 6th questions are both laying the groundwork for the 8th question, so you must ensure the first 2 questions are correct before doing the 8th question, otherwise, the 2nd question will be lost. The main point of the 7th question is to ensure access. As long as you can access it, it's fine. For the 6th question, as long as our 2 roles are installed correctly, there won't be any issues. This is an aspect of our 7th question. A method for creating and using roles. Alright, we'll stop here for today. If you need the complete question bank, you can leave a comment below and purchase the most stable question bank at the best price. That's it for today, everyone. Goodbye.